we do see echoes and reflections of what's happening nationally here in some of the discourse and even the discourse that the candidates are having.
Mhm. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. It's me, Tony B. This is our first of 5 debates that we are covering. District 1 will be doing District 2 tomorrow from the Columbia City Theater. Then we'll be doing District 3 on the 10th. Oh, thanks, Daniel. District 3 on the 10th with Alex Hudson and Joy Hollingsworth. That will be at the Broadway Performance Center, Seattle Central Community College. Then District 4, Ron Davis and Maritza Rivera, and that will be at the Hub Ballroom Conference Center at the University of Washington. And then finally, District 5 debate will be at North Seattle. It's either community college or college. We'll find out. And that's Kathy Moore and Christiana Obey Sumner. What do you think about this effort to say, okay, you know what, we're going to host debates where the incumbents have decided, I don't want any part of this anymore. Now, I don't know if they said that, but they're not running.
Right.
Again, what are your thoughts on that? We have 2 candidates. Neither of them are the incumbent in 4 of these districts.
Right. I mean, I think it speaks to the pressure of being a council member, city councilor, but I also think it speaks to maybe a push for change. I think that if incumbents are leaving their posts, there's probably been a big push to see change and transformation in the communities around Seattle. Yeah.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. I'm going to give you a little time to get yourself together.
Yeah, I'll finish my granola bar.
And this is very important work that you're doing, and we appreciate what you're doing. Tune in at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
And you can see Malia as I don't know what you want. You're going to grill them. You're going to, whatever it is, you're going to be asking the questions.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
All right. You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. Do we have someone else joining us up here? Okay. I think we have someone joining us, or do we not have someone joining us? While we get that part worked out, Mac, why don't you come on up here for a second? Mac does a show on Rainier Avenue Radio. Watch that big step over there. Mac McGregor. How you doing, Mac?
I'm doing good, Tony.
I know you were out doing what we call man on the street stuff.
Yes, I was.
And talking to members of our communities. And,
Right.
and that's really what this is all about. It's about having members of our community have their voices heard
Yes.
to these candidates that are, running for office.
Right.
What was the general, I don't know if you want to call it theme, or was there a general? I've kind of described it as being all over the place. What did you see?
Well, with the folks I talked to in the last few days, the consistent things that came up were crime and getting that under control, people not feeling safe in their neighborhoods or to go downtown for events or whatever, and homelessness. And those two, of course, some think intersect a great deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's no easy answer to those.
Yeah. Well, we've got some of those clips here that you did, and hopefully we'll get the candidates up here for a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're going to play the clips from the man on the street.
Yes.
That want to have their voices heard, and we'll see if we can get candidates to answer and respond to those questions. Mac, thanks for joining me up here. I see that we've got another moderator coming up here, and so be on standby in case
I will.
Okay. Oh, tell them quickly about your show.
Oh, yes. My show is called the You Can Make a Difference Show, and what I do is I speak with folks that are doing positive things to make a difference in our communities and in our world.
All right.
Yes.
And it's an awesome, fantastic show.
Thank you.
Every Friday at what time?
Noon.
Every Friday.
Yes, it's live each Friday at 12 noon.
All right.
Yeah.
And
tune
a great
in.
show. Thank you. All right. I believe this is Matt Markovich from Cairo News Radio, another moderator. Watch that step. You know what? That last step is a doozy, Matt. How you doing?
All high and mighty, man. Come up here with you. You got to be up high. Surveil the whole arena here.
Are you how you feeling right now?
I'm good. I'm always good. Yeah. I always like this when the spotlight's on and you have to answer the tough questions.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that too. But this is an opportunity to share a little information about you,
Okay.
who will be asking the
Yeah.
questions. So we know again that you're at Cairo, but give us a little bit more background on yourself.
Well, I
who
mean,
you
in
are.
terms of District 1, when I first moved to Seattle in 91, I went straight to District 1. I lived on
Okay.
California Avenue. I was in
Oh
West
boy.
Seattle.
Yeah.
I was in West Seattle for 10, 12 years
Yeah.
as a homeowner,
Mhm.
and then moved farther south because it got too expensive
Yeah.
to move up. But I think affordability is a huge issue
Mhm.
in West Seattle for a lot of people who are getting priced out of their homes, especially the elderly.
Yes.
I think going forward, you're going to hear a lot tonight about safety and homelessness
Mhm.
because those are the two reigning top issues among Seattle voters, not just in District 1, but throughout Seattle.
That isn't that something that you think it's happening just in your community because it's a community that you live in, but these
Yeah.
are problems that are pervasive all throughout Seattle, uniquely to West Seattle.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
what
think
what is the homeless situation like here? If you had to just kind of sum it up really quickly, I mentioned before that you have folks who uh, don't. You can't criminalize homelessness, is what
Yeah.
this is. And then you got folks who are like, yeah, but not in my backyard.
Yeah. Well, I was a reporter for a long time at Como TV
Yeah.
and kind of started what they call Project Seattle, which was focusing on homelessness. So I'd go into the camps for years and really got to know people. I still have people calling me. I gave my phone number out. And you asked the question, was the state of homelessness right now? I would really say it's a moving target.
Okay.
It really is. The amount of money that people say who want housing first, and it's a good solution. It's super expensive. You're talking $25 billion for over the next 5 years, according to the Regional Homelessness Authority. That number dropped down to 11 billion. It depends on who you're talking to and how much it's going to cost to get out, and whether or not. What do you do? And I think that there's a compassion in Seattle to house the homeless, people who are unhoused. But at some point, that compassion ends at a pocketbook issue.
Yeah.
It's like, how much as the city of Seattle, which is going to plan to spend $100 million to the King County Regional Homelessness Authority next year, even more, several tens of millions on its own budget to do its own things in the city of Seattle. Yet we're looking at price tags of billions of dollars to house the unhoused. So how compassionate is Seattle really going to be and open up its pocketbook? I think that's just a perennial question. And that's really, as I see it, the issue why homelessness is now going on its 8th year of the homelessness emergency in Seattle.
Wow. I want to get to some more issues specific to West Seattle with you, but I still want to find out a little bit more about you.
Sure.
Did you go to you?
I was born and raised in Santa Barbara. Started the broadcasting as a surf reporter.
Okay.
And I made, as part of that job, I made Mr.
How's the surfing up here in the Northwest? I've heard
it's
different
too
things
cold.
about it.
It's way too cold. It's like I grew up in California.
You go to Westport?
No, I don't like to surf with a wetsuit on, and use a blue label because, one of the things I did when I started in the broadcast, how I got into broadcasting was I made Mr. Zog's sex wax.
Oh boy.
You know what that is?
No, I don't.
It's a surfboard wax.
It's a surfboard wax.
Yeah. And that got me on to doing a radio surf report on KMET in Los Angeles. And that's how I did broadcasting. And I made the wax that goes on the surfboards back when I was in college.
Okay.
And so that kind of got me going. I did TV in Santa Barbara, in Seattle, traveled the country. And then I was with Como, a brief stint with Fox. And now I'm with Cairo News Radio, kind of the twilight of my career.
Yeah.
And I am really enjoying it. And they're allowing me to do some political coverage. And I covered the legislature last year, and I'll be doing the legislature again this year.
So again, as for somebody who came here from somewhere else, what was it about the politics of Seattle that you felt like, hey, I need to step in here and contribute in whatever way that is that I can contribute?
Well, I can't change the politics in Seattle. I might be able to influence because of my reporting. but that's why we're here. We're electing people who can make the difference,
Yeah.
who set policy. And the politics in Seattle, I tell you, to me, it's gotten more, people say extreme, radicalized to the left, more so, if you look at other, even major cities in the country.
Yeah.
But I think Seattle's right in line with all large metropolitan areas, primarily Democratic in the United States. So it is, but in a lot of cities look to Seattle to set policy on how to do progressive lawmaking. So I think that's what got me into it. There is a vocal, progressive group in Seattle, very vocal, large, quiet mainstream. And of course you have the right, which is very, very vocal. So it's, what does that mainstream want? The vast 2/3, I think, in the city of Seattle. What do they really want? We hear from the left, we hear from the right. I really want to focus on what the 2/3 are and try and ask those questions, what the 2/3 are. I mean, you're going to hear it tonight. I'm going to try and ask, is Seattle safe? It's such a basic question.
Yeah.
Would you walk, and here the District 1 candidates, maybe they're listening, tip off a question, is there any place in District 1 that you would not walk at night or during the day?
Wow.
And see what they say.
They should be able to answer that question.
Yeah, and then you're going to hold them to the fire if they pick certain streets and in neighborhoods that we know have a higher propensity for crime. Will they walk that street at night?
Now I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer. I know you're moderating, but you've used the word progressive. 4 districts, no incumbents.
Right.
Do you think there is room for a conservative city council candidate in Seattle?
I think the only district that could possibly happen in, it could possibly happen in District 7, Andrew Lewis's district. It may happen in District 4, the seat vacated by Alex Peterson. But I think predominantly on all their seats, no. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen. Those are the 2 chances. But it doesn't mean that they're a Republican or conservative within the traditional labels right now.
No, I didn't say Republican.
I know. You said conservative and progressive, but I think once they're on the panel, on the council, these newcomers, there's 4 newcomers, they'll align themselves with other people and they'll learn how to get legislation through, because that's what politicking is all about. It's, you have an idea, you got to work with the guy across the hall from you and how to get your policy done. And maybe they'll vote for your policy, you vote for that. That's how governing is done. Good
Get out of here.
Good government.
We had some things happen today, but we won't talk about that. A couple more questions for you, and I'll let you go, because I'm going to ask all 3 of you the same question. One, why is this important, this debate that we're having here? And Alicia talked earlier about the difference between a candidate forum and a debate. Why is this, or is it, critical and important to those who are going to be watching at 7 o'clock?
Well, I'm going to try and do what I can to stoke the fire, so they have a debate and not just answer a question and the next person answers the same question. Yeah. How do you feel about what policy you're going to do? I'm going to try and look for the divisions and have them debate. Now, I'm hoping that there'll be some hot button issues between the 2 of them that erupt. I was told earlier they haven't had any real debates like this, where it's one-on-one and they have an opportunity to address the other person.
Then today's the day.
Today is the day, and it's going to be televised. So we're hoping to make it. I'm hoping to make it a little bit more lively than a candidate forum where they kind of do a traditional answer the audience's question.
And
we're going to try and make it a little more exciting. Okay.
Are the national politics, which is what a lot of people are focused on right now, are those more of the same, different issues than what folks are living through in District 1 right now?
I think when it comes down to national politics, any national policy that involves a person's pocketbook, District 1 people will relate to or want to know about. And I think you can talk about the war in Ukraine, could talk about abortion rights. But when it comes down to is my tax bill going up? Am I going to get my Social Security going to get cut? Things that affects the pocketbook. That's where the national politics relates to local politics.
Yeah.
And I want to say one more thing, if I can, about District 1.
Yeah.
I think what's really, they moved the line. They moved it right over to Airport Way.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all of Soto pretty much and all of Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of homelessness,
by Georgetown, I'm District 2. But anyway, go ahead.
But in terms of homeless policy,
mm-hmm.
that's huge.
Yeah.
There is an ongoing, nonstop lightning rod of many streets in Soto, especially, where city policy affects the homelessness. And it's always the cameras are always there. That's where they call what a police officer told me years ago, the Heroin Highway, Holgate, the street that goes east-west and through Soto. It's nicknamed the Heroin Highway because that's where you can go get stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very open and you can see it. So now this district candidate or council member, that's in their district.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to answer the questions about crime, especially from all the business owners downtown and the few people that live in Georgetown.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up. I said it earlier. It doesn't hurt to bring it up again. There's been a redistricting, and that changes things.
It does.
And so you have different constituents, and how are our candidates? Are they going to forget about that? We'll see.
Oh, well, they better not. It's a whole new 6,000 people there. Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks. I'll give you some time. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we'll be. Go get them, man.
Okay, I will.
Go gonna stir the pot. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. It's me, Tony B. This is our pre-debate show. The debate will be coming up at 7 o'clock, and this is an opportunity for us to just talk to a few folks. I've spoken with a couple of the moderators, and I will again have Natalie come up here. Watch that step. Okay, you did it. Yeah, Natalie, come up here. Natalie, go ahead and stick those headphones on. Oh boy, Natalie, I'm so excited about this opportunity to share information with our communities. We're going to be doing District 1. Rainier Avenue Radio is going to be doing District 2. Then collectively we'll be doing 3, 4, and 5. Again, this effort, again, what I'm calling it, to make sure that we have informed voters. Again, my thing, I'm not telling anyone what to think or how to think or who to vote for. It's fine to do that, I mean, if you feel strongly or passionately about something, but just making sure that folks have information. What are your thoughts on that? Because I still talk to people who don't even know who the city council folks are running in their district.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm knocking on doors and hearing the same thing.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, one of my friends,
I'm gonna have you pull that up just a little bit.
Where is it?
There we go. There we go. There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah. Okay.
A friend of mine owns the Admiral Pub in West Seattle, and he does a trivia night. And he actually used this as a question for the trivia night.
Who are your city council people?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Who's running in District 1? And he said that about 50% of the audience got it right.
Wow.
So
how do you approach a debate like this, knowing that a lot of people just aren't engaged in that way? I always try to tell folks, look, if you're paying attention to national politics, but the local politics affect you directly.
I say the same thing. And I also say you can choose to pay attention to the Mariners or not, but you don't get to choose with city politics. That's going to affect you one way or the other. So by not paying attention, that's still a choice.
Yeah. Well, let's find out a little bit about you. The same thing. Tell us about your background, what you do, and where you're from, and all that good stuff.
How long do you want that to be? A minute or 10 minutes?
I will play traffic cop. You just do you. All right. You tell us. And if I have to say, okay, we're good, I will. But go ahead. Tell me.
Well, I come from Minnesota originally.
Minnesota?
Yep. Yep.
Everybody's a transplant.
Yep.
Nobody's homegrown on this panel. But you know what? There are a lot of transplants in Seattle. So, okay, I'm not going to. From Minnesota.
Cornfields of
You
Minnesota.
Prince fan?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. Oh. Kind of maybe my favorite ever.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then moved out here 33 years ago. I've lived in District 1 for 21 years. I have kids, 2 of my own, 2 step. Um, I was a waitress, early on, and I did a nonprofit to lift up women and girls, and then Seattle became a tech town, and I became a tech worker, and then I've been doing that for the past 25 years.
What led you to District 1? Was it intentional, or was the price right?
I was scooting out of a bad relationship. And I moved in with my sister, who was living in District 1. I had a place to drop my bags. So you asked, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
And
that's how
my
we get
sister,
in.
my twin sister lived there. So I lived with her for a while. And now I eventually got my own house and whatever. There was a lot in between that. That was a long time ago. But now she lives across the street from me.
Okay. Tell me about District 1 from your perspective. I mean, 21 years, you obviously, it's home. It's, you raising your family.
Absolutely. Yep. I love District 1. It has so much variety and across the different districts, north to south, east to west. You have, Alki Beach, which is kind of one of my favorite places on the planet, and then South Park, which is just this amazing, somewhat disconnected and abandoned, neighborhood, but like this amazing neighborhood that we need to lift up into the light. And the port and the Duwamish, is a super fun site, and there's just so much going on in District 1.
I'll say that again. The Duwamish. You got a lot of stuff going on in District 1. A lot
the
of
port.
A lot of different, I'll just call them personality communities. That are special interests. Your thoughts on how you're approaching asking these questions tonight. Again, you're in that very, critical position where you're going to be the voice of a lot of folks, in a very diverse district, business-wise, residential-wise. How are you going to do that? How do you manage that?
Well, in my, the function that I played in big tech was actually user experience design, which I call the soul of big tech, because it's sort of the function that makes big tech care about people, not just profit. It was my role to listen to people, to really understand what they were dealing with, what their problem was, and then try to invent solutions to help them and include them in that process to make sure that the solutions you come up with work for the people that are going to use them.
Well, I'm looking over there and I see Rob, and I know he's got to go on stage in a minute. Hey, Rob. I just do that, sometimes you just have to just be about it, and that's how you get things done. But again, I've heard Malia describe, what she wants to get out of this. We've just talk to Matt, he wants to stir the pot a little bit. What are you looking to do? What makes this successful for you? When you're finished, when the lights go down, after you've had this opportunity to ask questions of these candidates, and I'm saying in the benefit of the community. Maybe that's not how you're looking at it, but
I think that's a great way to look at it. I think that I want people to be able to make informed decisions. Sometimes I'll knock on a door where they'll say, it's raining out, and just the fact that you climbed up all these steps, you're on my door, I'm going to give you my my democracy Rogers. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I actually want you to be a little bit more, discerning in your decision. And so this is a great forum for people to just be able to hear from both candidates and learn a lot about us, hopefully, and make a more informed decision.
Okay, well, I know you got to go. We're creeping up on that time. I want you to make sure that you have the time to get yourself together. Thank you for
All right.
doing this.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Really nice to meet you.
And yeah, let's do this.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna take off headphones.
Take off your headphones. All right. Now, see, I'm gonna try and get Rob to come over here. See, I appreciate that. Say again. Okay. Oh, watch that step. Everybody's told to watch that step. And so since you're sitting there, and now you remember.
Come back after.
Okay. Yeah, but I just figured I would, good seeing you. We talked months ago in Columbia City.
Yep.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
You remember now.
Yes, sir.
You remember now. This is going to be the easiest question I can ask you really quickly. Why should? Oh yeah. Why put the headphones on?
Okay.
Why, why should District 1 vote for you, Rob? I'm cutting out a lot of our conversation.
Yep.
And I'm just going. Why should District 1 vote for you? And I remember what you told me when you were running.
Yep.
Yeah. Why should District 1 vote for you?
Well, it's a great question. First and foremost, I'll say I'm the only one in this race who has actual experience writing government policy and helping to pass law. And I've done that by serving on various government boards and commissions, including those to review and update the King County Constitution or Charter, redraw the King County Council districts, select the next Seattle Police Chief, Chief Diaz, amongst other things. Only one.
Yeah.
Also, just some quick and dirty background about me personally, directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Look, I'm a public school dad of 3, Air Force veteran, attorney, community safety advocate. I live in Delridge with my family. Aside from being the only one in this race who has actual experience writing government policy and passing law, I'm the only one in this race who's been consistent on public safety, on my need to on calling on the need to hire more police and hold them accountable when they don't do their job right, on demanding that we also at the same time stand up and invest in civilian-led responses, on also making sure we rebuild and reform the department to make sure that more Black and brown communities aren't overly represented in the criminal legal justice system. And the only one that's been consistent with a thoughtful, balanced approach to public safety, the only one that is actually talking about change, and more importantly, I'm the only one, based off of what I'm hearing my opponent talk about in various interviews and various debates that we're doing, the only one that's actually has some common sense.
Oh boy.
On the issues that I think matter the most to voters.
Well, you know what? I got you over here. Thanks for coming. Those are the advantages from me.
That was a preview. We're gonna have to talk a little bit after.
We'll talk after. But I saw you. I remember you being a good guy. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's going on with this debate, but I got a chance to talk to you right now. So I'm taking advantage. I appreciate you coming over.
Well, you have cool glasses, so we got to recognize each other.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Tonight. And the other cat is Maren here? Is Maren around?
You just spoke with her.
I did. What? Okay.
I think they're calling us back to the,
yeah, I know. They're calling you. Thanks for stopping by. This is how we get down. Sometimes we use guerrilla tactics to get what we want. Watch that first step. You have been listening to Rainier Avenue Radio and our pre-debate show, an opportunity for you to learn more about who the moderators are. We do also have some questions. Mr. Bellis, we went out and did some man on the street conversations. Mr. Bellis, can we play? Let's just play the first one.
Avenue Radio, and you are?
My name's Greg. I work in the retail sector.
Great.
And what I'd like to know is, what are you going to do about shoplifting in this town? It's sucking the life out of the retail industry. Losses and energy, because it's not fun to work in a place where you have to watch people walking out the door with stolen goods. I wish we would come up with a better solution for that.
All
Thank
right.
you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. That's something from the community. We'll see if that's addressed at the debate that is taking place in about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And so I'm going to be shutting it down here again. This is District 1. We are at South Seattle Community College at the Jerry Brocky Student Center. It's me, Tony B. You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. You like that? Did you like that? We will be hosting the D2 debate tomorrow at the Columbia City Theater, 4916 Rainier Avenue South. Tammy Morales is the incumbent. Tanya Wu is the other candidate. Again, 7 to 8 we'll be having the debate. A little different, though, from 6:15 to 6:45, community members are invited down, and you get 1 minute to say whatever you want to say. Whatever you want to say. You get 1 minute to do that between 6:15 and 6:45. Then we'll be holding more debates. We've got the District 3 debate on October 10th. That will be at the Broadway Performance Hall or Center, one of the two. I don't remember which one, Hall or Center, but it's the Broadway right on the corner on the campus of Seattle Central. The District 4 debate will be October 13th. That will be at the University of Washington Hub Conference Center. And the final District 5 debate will be October 17th at North Seattle. I'm calling it community college, but I'm told it's just a college now. So we're going to get the answer to that as well. Thank you for tuning in to our pre-debate show. We're going to be back after the debate and talk about some of the things that went on at the debate. So join us for that as well. Yeah, that's it. That's all the time I have right now. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B, on behalf of Rainier Avenue Radio .world, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not translating the lyrics of Boogie Oogie Oogie for bored Europeans, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe Bean. And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio .world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Little Line Sports, Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Citizens of America or citizens of the world that must begin.
Rainier Avenue Radio. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey, Buford, why are you kicking that old CD player?
Because I can't hear the radio.
Can't hear the radio? Let me help you.
Hey, you two, quit beating up that outdated audio equipment. You can't hear the radio on a CD player.
You can.
No, you can't, you adorable simpletons. But you can hear some great radio on the Rainier Avenue Radio app. It's brand new, it's free, and it's available for Android and iPhone. In fact, you can download the Rainier Avenue Radio app right now from the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store.
I'm going to go give me a smartphone right now.
I'm just going to put a graduation cap on my rotary phone. You two have very significant personal issues. Get the Rainier Avenue Radio .world app today.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
For me, generational wealth is passed down knowledge from from relatives or any family members, or even like any ancestral people that have come before you, that is, used to help you progress in the times that you're living in. So I think it is very updated, it's very current, it is existing in real time. So any type of knowledge or resources from people who are here living now, being able to provide that information and pass it down from generation to generation, and how you maintain the wealth. That's what it means to me.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Create your generational wealth for you and the future of your families.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
The beat of the Fox with nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice. UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
That's right. Noise. Peace.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil-Am Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
This is Mondo Bancaro from Mondo's World. We will be discussing some interesting subjects. Sometimes I might even have some guests. So please listen to my show on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Once we change and improve the mindset around what Black wealth is and can be, and show success along the journey, the longer term impacts will be huge. This is something that once we get there and at various places along the journey, we'll see that this is something that we could have done or could have begun a long time ago and simply managed to not yet find the trail. But once we do find the pathway, we'll be able to create something that no one will be able to take away from us, from our families, or our communities. And like I say, the impact will be huge. So we can either talk about it or get on with the task. My suggestion is that we hunker down, cinch up our belts, and get on
This
with
campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and back in my day when we
in my professional career for bringing people together and getting stuff done. And I look forward and I ask for your vote.
All right, thank you to both of you. Tonight, our questions tonight are going to be guided by the voters. And a recent Crosscut Elway poll asked Seattle about the top issues the next city council should tackle. Homelessness was number one.
And we want to ask the audience to keep applause until the end of the debate. Homelessness. It's a complex issue. Seattle declared a homeless emergency in November of 2015. We're coming up on the 8th anniversary of that declaration. And some would argue after spending hundreds of millions of dollars here in the city, we've seen little or no visible improvement. How do you address the complex issue of homelessness, and what specific and underlying specific policies or initiatives do you have that are new or something that was tried before but did not succeed?
Rob, go ahead, go first.
And so it's an excellent question. Homelessness, I've knocked on thousands of doors throughout this campaign, and I know it's on a lot of people's minds and their hearts as well. I'm also someone who has overcome the foster care system, someone who overcame public housing. So I know through the help of community, I am here today. So I know what it's like to struggle and experience housing instability. Like many of the people I hope to help. I'm here to address the root causes of homelessness. At a high level, it's poverty. More specifically, it's lack of access to affordable housing. We need to build a ton of affordable housing in this city and build quickly and add density and grow and reform our zoning laws to do so. And make it easier to build by streamlining and improving the permitting process. But folks, we're not going to root cause only our way out of this crisis. Unlike my opponent, who does not support encampment cleanups, I do support encampment cleanups that connect people with shelter and services.
Okay, thank you. Maren.
Homelessness is first and foremost a housing problem. The number one reason why people fall into homelessness is being one paycheck short of making rent. We need to bring people inside and give people the wraparound services that they need to be successful. And they need to be tailored to the individual so that we aren't giving somebody a hotel voucher in Renton when they have a job in Everett. We need to have tailored solutions that we are able to deliver to individuals when we bring them inside. We cannot accept sweeps. They are ineffective, expensive, and inhumane. I've heard estimates of $37 million on sweeps last year. We could have been building tiny home villages and bringing people inside. We need to stop the sweeps.
Just to follow up, just because where's the money going to come from for affordable housing? You both are talking about that. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority estimated could be $11.5 billion over the next 5 years in the King County, up to $22.5 billion. Just doing simple math, that's over $250,000 per person. Who's going to pay for that affordable housing in the city of Seattle specifically? It'll be actually be Mara go first.
Okay.
Sorry, we're going to alternate
no worries.
now.
We'll follow you guys. We know we're heading into a public or a deficit. In 2025, we're going to be $230 million short. So we need to do everything we can to make sure we're spending our money efficiently, but we also need to commit to raising progressive revenue so that we can solve our problems. We're a big city with big problems, and they aren't going to be free.
Rob?
On encampment cleanups really quick, because my opponent has said there are no instances where she...
But we're talking about affordable housing right now.
But there
Who's
are
gonna
no
pay for it?
instances where she said she supports sweeps of encampments. We've tried that in 2020 and 21. It doesn't work. It's not one or the other. We can do better for our unhoused neighbors by connecting them with tiny homes, yes, hotel spaces, RV safe lots. There's not just one thing, and I think we agree on that. On the budget, my starting point is operating within existing city budget. And we can talk more about progressive revenues in a moment, but my starting point is operating within the existing city budget.
I just got a text. We're going to be interactive here. This is a question that just came to me. Many cities in our region and other states are passing laws prohibiting encampments in public spaces. Now, they believe it's legal as long as the prohibition is defined by time, place, and manner, not a blanket prohibition. Should Seattle do the same?
Rob, go first.
So other cities across the state and in other parts of the country in the Pacific Northwest have done something similar. I think we need to look at the legality of that first off. As I am a lawyer, but I'm no expert in this. We do need to study the legality of that and put reasonable restrictions. If we do, put reasonable restrictions around time, place, and manner. Make sure it's tied to a specific public health threat, for example, or potential public safety threat. So it's not just broad and vague. But other cities have found some success in doing that. Other cities have not. I don't know if there's a clear answer, yes or no, but I do know we need to do better for our unhoused neighbors and turning in on our unhoused and unsheltered neighbors and turning our back on people and pretending people aren't living and suffering and dying, sadly, in the streets is not an effective policy solution.
Right, Maren.
So homelessness, being unhoused and a human should not be illegal. People don't have anywhere to go. Encampments are a failure of city government. We shouldn't have encampments. We shouldn't be having to decide whether or not encampments can be on public grounds. We need to bring people inside, and we can do it. Houston has used a housing first model. They have cut their homelessness population in half. I don't think we should even be worrying about where we're going to move people outside. We need to bring people inside.
All right, thank you. Wanting to move to some public safety issues, and we're going to talk right now about the number of homicides in Seattle so far this year. It's already exceeded last year's total, including 2 people shot to death near Alki Beach in May alone. I want you to tell me one policy you would propose to address violent crimes in Seattle, especially crimes involving gun violence. And Rob, I'll have you go first.
So I live in Delridge, and gun violence is a challenge afflicting the whole city. But there are certain communities, including Delridge, that are bearing the brunt of the gun violence crisis. And my plan on public safety, unlike my opponent, who seems to think that the 2020 vote to defund the police was a good idea based off of an Elway crosscut poll in October of 2020 that said only 20% of Seattle residents thought it was a good idea. My opponent still thinks it was a good idea, or at a minimum, not a mistake. It's dangerous. That's in part why we're in the current state of affairs. There's 3 more months left, and we already eclipsed last year's totals, as we just learned. So I'm here to hire more police, empower them to effectively carry out their public safety mandate. I want to restore good old-fashioned community-oriented policing, where we get officers out of their patrol cars and into foot patrols and bike patrols and emphasis patrols in certain areas like Elki that can actually serve as a deterrent and help build trust.
All right, thank you. Maren, go ahead.
So we need a comprehensive public safety plan. I'm very encouraged by the mayor and the plan to set up the 3rd department that we have been waiting for. Seattle has been asking for. It's highly popular. We need to get that 3rd department stood up so that we can move some of the load off of our armed officers, and then they have more bandwidth to deal with the calls that we really need them on, where they're dealing with an armed offender. So that is one big piece to ensuring, yes, we need more cops. Yes, we need better cops. We need to keep our bar high. We need to keep accountability high, but we will need armed police. That's an important piece of public safety. But if we build this 3rd department, we're going to have more bandwidth for officers where they're needed. We also need to deal with gun violence. I'm proud that I have a 5 out of 5 rating from the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. I've met with several people that are working in organizations like Community Passageways, and they are doing incredible work, and we need to double down on that.
And Maren, a follow-up for you, just what Rob just said about defund police. What would you want to say to address his comments?
I addressed that in the opening statement because I knew it was coming. I don't want to defund the police. I've never said that. I've been consistent the entire time. So,
Rob, go ahead.
Well, look, the only thing that my opponent has been consistent about during this whole election is her inconsistency on public safety. She was for defunding police before she was against it. During the MLK Candidate Labor Forum in May or June of this year, the question was asked. There's receipts. Question was asked. Was the 2020 vote by the Seattle City Council to pledge to defund the police by 50%, cut their budget by 50%, was it a mistake? I said no. And my opponent said yes. And then then I hear some rationale about, well, I'll let her explain the rationale, but
That's time. Do you want to offer the other explanation or
He's
move on?
mischaracterizing it. The question was at the time, was it right? And at the time, 53% of Seattle was demanding it, and the nation was demanding it. I wasn't in city council, but I would expect city council to stand up and take a bold stand when more than the majority, when a majority of the city is asking for that. That's what we should expect our city council.
So want to move on now. Seattle voters surveyed by Crosscut say affordable housing is among the most important issues as they decide who gets their vote.
You've both named affordable housing as campaign priorities, and you both have similar ideas of how to make Seattle a more affordable place to live, like by cutting red tape to make permitting faster and promoting mixed-use developments. Could you each outline other ways you plan to make housing more affordable for people in Seattle and how this differs from your opponent?
I missed the last part of the.
Could you each outline other ways that you plan to make housing more affordable and how this differs from your opponent?
And Maren, you'll go first for us.
So we need to increase housing of all types. When we increase supply, we bring costs down. We know that's a fact. When cars were hard to find during COVID, the price of used cars went way up. When the new cars came back in, cars went back down. So we know that if we just increase the supply of any type of housing, we will bring the prices down. I don't know if, I think a difference would be with me and my opponent is, because I'm trying to think, I think we agree on a lot of things on this one, but the comp plan is coming up to the city. They have an alternative 6, which is the most forward-looking. It's the only plan that actually lets us look at the amount of housing we would actually need, and it lets housing grow with jobs and population instead of capping housing when we don't cap jobs and population.
All right, Rob.
yeah, so it's very clear that my opponent and I, we do agree on the need, high level, to add growth and density. We agreed on the need imperative to build as quickly as possible, in part by streamlining the permitting process, et cetera. I think where we probably differ, and I'm coming at this from a place of personal lived experience, is that as we build and grow, we need to make sure we don't displace and push out people who've been there for a long time. So I support strong anti-displacement strategies, things like right of first return and first refusal, relocation assistance, community land trust, things like that. Also on the comp plan, another sort of area of contrast, I'm strongly inclined to support comp plan number 5, which is a big, bold, ambitious plan to add density and growth. My opponent just got done saying she supports comp plan number 6, which exists, as I understand it, only in the papers. All the work has already been done, and comp plan 5 is an option currently being considered. I'm not here to unwind stuff.
All right.
I'm here to build upon and make better.
Thank you. Next question.
Candidate Saka, you have mentioned that you want to increase investment in workforce housing and market rate housing where it makes sense. How do you determine where market rate housing will make sense in the communities that you're going to serve if you're elected?
How do I determine?
When market rate housing does make sense in the communities of District 1? You said, yeah. I'm sorry. I was saying candidate Saka has expressed that you want to increase investment in workforce housing, but you've also indicated that you can make market rate housing density where it makes sense. How do you determine where it makes sense?
Yeah, so we need to invest and encourage development from a city funding and investment standpoint in all 3 tiers. But I think focusing our efforts on a city investment standpoint on the lower 2 tiers, so low income, middle income, kind of workforce housing, if you will, as well. As we build and grow, yes, we need some like market rate housing as well. That's always going to be an option. But we need to encourage. So I support a carrot and a stick approach, working with developers to require certain allocations of both, and then incentivize them for building low-income apartments and housing as well.
Well, you just mentioned investment. Again, that's the key word for me about who's paying for all this. Given what you just talked about, who's paying for this investment? And does the city have the money to do it?
Yeah, so my starting point is, again, operating with an existing city budget. I think we need to, I'm calling for an independent third-party audit of entire city budget and spending. Make sure that things today are spending today is tied to current priorities of this council and this mayor, not the council and mayor of 10, 15 plus years ago. We need to better harmonize and streamline services and avoid redundancies and duplication of efforts. We need to make sure we need to bake in performance targets in all of our contracting, just to make sure we are getting the most bang, taxpayers are getting the most bang for our buck. Then let's explore public-private partnerships. Then let's explore other government funding options like the county, state, and federal. And then now also let's talk about progressive revenue.
Want to give you a chance. Go ahead, Maren.
I was at Amazon for 15 years. We had a leadership principle called frugality. Every dollar wasted is a dollar not spent on customers. I also want to make sure we are spending our money wisely. I would ask the mayor to bubble up from his directs and then directs and let people on the ground bubble up 10 ways. It could be anonymous, 10 ways your department can save money. I think that would be a great first step. But we do need to raise progressive revenue. We're not going to suddenly find $230 million sitting in the budget. And maybe we can go into some of those ways at some point. I'm sure we will.
I'm gonna move to transportation because that has had a special importance in District 1, which struggled with the West Seattle Bridge closure for 2.5 years. So we're going to start with a question from our audience. And that question is, what is your vision for light rail coming to West Seattle? And Rob, you can go first.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of work already put into the light rail. And I live in Delridge, and every last one of the plans impacts multiple areas throughout West Seattle, and including Delridge. There are a lot of businesses and homes and daycares and things that are going to be displaced. So that's why I support anti-displacement strategies, because I come from these communities. But that doesn't mean I'm here to undo or unwind existing work, unlike it sounds like what my opponent might want to do with the comp plan, this mythical Plan 6. I support, there's a number of options being considered, but we need light rail, and we need connectivity from West Seattle to the rest of the city, and need to have the free flow of people and information in and out. And we need to expand our public transportation options and services, and light rail is exactly how, well, it's a key factor into how we're going to get there.
Maren, same question, light rail.
So light rail is going to be incredibly expensive and quite disruptive. So I know we've done a lot of work, but we really need to make sure that we are bringing a valuable, usable, accessible asset to our community. And we need to make sure that the businesses and especially the businesses and the homes that we displace are well compensated for. My sister is a small business owner in West Seattle. She was under eminent domain for a moment until now the preferred plan is moved a block over. So she might be spared, but there's a daycare center at Delridge that will cost millions to set up somewhere else. And the amount of money that they're being offered is not sufficient for them to set up. If and when we do have light rail, we need to make sure that we're connecting the light rail with bike paths and walking paths and buses to make sure that we have a connected system that works for everyone.
You talked about displacement, which is going to be a huge issue because we don't have a plan going forward. So given the choice, if you had an option where fewer people, businesses, residents were displaced versus a more expensive alternative, which one would you go to? Displacing people for the better, or for the bigger good, pay for more?
Maren, go first.
I think when we're talking about transit and these huge investments that people are going to be using for the next 100 years, we need to make sure we are compensating people, but we also need to make sure we're doing the right thing for the next 100 years. When I-5 went plowing through whatever neighborhoods it did when it went plowing through, I mean, we are now still driving on I-5. We had the tunnel project that we did. In each of these cases where we're doing such an expensive and disruptive plan. We just really need to make sure that we're looking forward, but compensating people appropriately.
And Rob, go ahead.
I would respectfully reframe that question. The whole essence of my campaign, folks, is it's not just one thing. It's not. We need to move away from these narratives that in binaries that put things as either or. Multiple complex, nuanced, urgent things can and must be true at the same time. And no more clear of an example can I think of right now than the displacement versus costs. We need to work collaboratively with communities and other government programs and funding sources to figure out the best options here. It's not one or the other.
All right. I want to talk about pandemic recovery because our region is still recovering from the effects of the pandemic. How will you support small businesses in your district that are still struggling? Maren, go first with that.
Small businesses are just constantly under duress. I mean, I know like I said, my twin sister is a small business owner. I have so many friends in West Seattle, and that's in District 1. That's part of what is so amazing about District 1 is our vibrant, many, small businesses. And it's always hard. COVID was even harder, and we're still in the shadow of the pandemic. We need to make sure that we continue supports for small businesses. We need to make sure that we have the right size of spaces for people to open up new small businesses, make sure that we're helping them with the technical aspects of setting up a small business, the financial aspects of setting up a small business. We need to streamline the process in general of opening up a small business and support our small businesses so that they can stay open, and also public safety comes in there because they're also dealing with a lot of vandalism and broken windows, and we can do a better job as a city supporting them there.
Rob, same question.
Small businesses across the city are suffering, are reeling. And I was actually at the West Seattle Chamber of Commerce luncheon last week, I believe, in their annual State of the Port. And I got to meet many small business owners personally, many of which I've already met before. But the number one thing that we can do from a city perspective is take meaningful progress on the public safety situation. As your council member, I'm not here to legislate menu changes and codify things like that. The number one thing I think we can do is to create the conditions where customers want to show up and support these small businesses, where the workers of the small business establishments want to show up and feel comfortable showing up. And when you talk about defunding the police, that doesn't actually help us get there. When you defend the defund, that doesn't get us there. And then when people are suffering from debilitating drug dependency issues left untreated on the street in front of small businesses, that's why I support the drug use law. That doesn't help us get there.
So you're talking a lot about taxes indirectly right here. How do you support small business? The city makes a lot of money in taxes off small business and large business. We had the Jumpstart Seattle tax, and now we're facing next year in 2025 a lower tax revenue. Let's just put that. That's what the city is predicting. Where is this extra money going to come from? In your mind, and I'm going to start with Rob. Where is the extra money to support any kind of proposal to help small business without taxing the people you're actually trying to help?
Great question. And I've been entirely clear and consistent, unlike my opponent, on a few important public safety things throughout. But where's the money going to come from? Again, my starting point is a refresher is to make sure we operate within existing city budget. Let's also explore public-private partnerships for certain opportunities as well. And because issues like homelessness, it's not a Seattle-only problem. We need to be looking, it's a county problem, it's a state problem. We need to be looking to other sources to help address it. I think my opponent and I do agree on the need to, the new progressive revenue report, the preserving the jumpstart tax, exploring the vacancy lot tax, amongst other things, but yeah.
Maren, go ahead.
I think this is probably a pretty clear differentiator between my opponent and me. My opponent is funded by his big businesses and CEOs and billionaires. And so he's going to be unwilling to say that we should perhaps increase the jumpstart tax or perhaps create a capital gains tax, an extreme capital gains tax at the municipal level. These are going to be key tools to help us fund our city. We can look around and see that we have a ton of money in our city. It's just hard to bring it back in because we have an upside down tax code.
Just real quickly, I want a quick answer on this one. Universal basic income, which was tried in Tacoma. Do you support that idea of trying it in Seattle?
Go to Maren first.
There is a lot of data to support universal basic income as being something that could work. I think as we move into the world where AI becomes increasingly more smart and it starts taking away jobs, we're already seeing this wealth gap. AI will increase that and it will kill jobs. So we're going to need to figure out how we're going to take care of people. I would be interested in a pilot.
Rob, how about you?
Yeah, I don't know where the money's going to come from, but it's absolutely worth exploring. Unlike my opponent, who recently said during another debate that the number one thing she wants to be remembered for in 4 years was raising more revenue, not making more progress on public safety, not action on homelessness, not addressing the affordability crisis, but raising more revenue. No, I'm here for the former, folks. But yeah, where's the money going to come from? I was door knocking yesterday and someone, and they expressed a profound concern and desire for the federal government to step up because they are uniquely positioned to help fund. They can literally print money. I'm curious to learn, where's this money going to come from for that?
I want to stay on the business issue and talk about something that's a problem citywide, vacant buildings. We have so many vacancies. I want to hear one idea from each of you, and I'd like it to be something unique, not that we've heard before, about how to fill some of these empty spaces. Maren, you can go first.
I think this would be an opportunity for both small businesses and housing and culture and arts. I know there was a group that was putting together something to put into the Banana Republic building, where you could have many different little kiosks and musicians and art and food, food stands. So I would love to see something like we've seen in like maybe on the Embarcadero in San Francisco, for example.
Rob?
Yeah, so how do we fill the vacant buildings? Well, one thing, and this ties back to the revenue, question, that the recurrent theme here. One thing I think we need to strongly explore, and I've been consistent about, and it sounds like me and my opponent definitely agree on the need to explore a vacancy tax, as one, to help raise revenue, and two, to make sure we better utilize underutilized spaces, if you will. Also, we can and must do things to make sure we have a more culturally relevant and thriving environment. And yeah, I also support, making sure we have artist space in some of these vacant spaces, in galleries and things like that. We have a very robust arts and cultural, scene here in Seattle. We need to make sure more people are exposed to that. But more people aren't going to be exposed to that if they don't feel safe to come to Seattle. We need to do better on that front as well.
Rob, what do you think about turning some of these vacant buildings into housing?
I think we need to explore that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth exploring.
Any incentive idea how to do that?
Pardon me?
Incentives. Is it across either one of your minds about how to incentivize something like that?
And how to incentivize
turning vacant buildings into
yeah. Well, need to work with the developer community, need to work with the real estate community, need to work with like homelessness rights advocates to figure out the best way forward. But absolutely, let's explore it.
I want to give Maren a chance to respond to that too, turning some of these vacant buildings into housing.
It is expensive to convert buildings, so that is something we will need to consider. I would love to convert rather than tear down and rebuild, just from a carbon footprint and just a waste factor. But if we're going to expect people to, put that expense into converting an office building into a livable space, there's a lot of changes that need to go into that. It's going to be expensive. We're going to need to figure out a way as a city that we can support that if that's what we want to have happen.
We want to move on to some policing matters. Obviously, it's a lightning rod issue in the city. We talked about
Sorry,
defunding the police. Can you hear me? Okay.
Maybe just start over.
Okay, I'm saying we're going to move into some policing issues. Obviously, you talked about defunding police. There's always a revenue issue there, but also there has to be a balance, many say, between enough officers and what they should be doing versus alternatives and how to pay for those alternatives, maybe coming out of the policing budget. Do you support the idea of alternatives responses coming out of a policing budget, incentivizing those kind of responses, or as what the mayor's been talking about, trying to raise the number of officers we have to a historical level of 1,400?
And we'll go Rob first.
Yes, I support the mayor's plan on public safety to hire and restore our officer staffing to 1,400, 1,500 deployable officers. Today, we're grossly understaffed and under-resourced. How do we get there? Defund. It doesn't work. Defund doesn't work. It chased out the first Black female police chief we've ever had in this city. On her heels, we've seen record numbers of officers resign and leave the force. Why? They didn't feel supported, nor should they. And I understand that. So we need to hire and keep the existing officers and the allocations for those roles within the police department and not pull and take and from unknown alternatives. By the way, just because we make sure we hire more officers because people expect better response times doesn't also mean we can and must invest in civilian-led responses. It's not one or the other. Multiple complex things can and must be true.
Maren.
I support the mayor's plan. I do take some issue with the allocated amount of money. We are a city that is in desperate need of having this alternative response. It's one of the best ways we can improve public safety in our city. The mayor's plan allocates $5 million to alternative response. And just as a point of comparison, we have $239 million for officers, and that's on top of already existing investments. I don't care where the money comes from, but $5 million doesn't sound like a bold plan. And that's what we need right now. As a city, we need a bold plan. And because we can look around and see that this is a big problem, and Seattle tends to like kick things out there and maybe pilot it, and then it doesn't, not fully funded, and then it doesn't work, and we say, oh, look, it didn't work. Let's really get behind this. We have enough data from other cities to know that this works.
When it comes to policing alternatives, Maren, you've said that we're overly reliant on armed officers. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into these alternatives.
Sorry, what?
Overly reliant on
Yes.
armed officers. So just give me an alternative and how you see it working day in, day out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, the defund, what happened after defund when we did lose officers and we're low down now and we'd like to rehire 400, and it's hard to hire. Nobody's really able to hire officers right now. The armed services are down. The younger generation just isn't signing up for this job. We need to figure out what it'll take to bring in the younger generation. Is it a more flexible schedule? Is it being more connected to your community? We need to figure that out. But we are feeling the pain now of the fact that we had one tool in our tool belt, and when we lost part of that tool, now we're struggling. We should have had alternative response stood up a long time ago so that it wasn't as painful when when we get to this case where now nobody's able to hire officers.
So as an example, what would be an example? Like social workers going out, or what would be an idea that you think?
Yeah, like a civilian response. I don't like to call it civilian response because it's and I don't want to say alternative response because that both of those sort of take away from what we're talking about. These are skilled professionals who understand what the need is, and they're trained to be able to go out and deal with these calls, whether it's person down, wellness check, some of the things that we can offload, that safely offload onto this new department.
the previous council, 2 or 3 years ago, used the term proviso, where they're targeting funding from the budget, which is primarily your job, for specific things within the police department. You can spend it on this, you can't spend it on that. What is your philosophy going forward, specifically with this police department, on how their budget is spent? Do you want to be a micromanager of the police department on how its money being spent? Or do you want to leave that to the chief and the mayor?
We'll have Rob go first.
Yeah, so I'm here to work with this mayor and through the police chief to hire more officers, make sure they have the tools, resources, and training they need to be successful, to help, to drive enhanced transparency and trust building measures throughout the department, and set and enforce the highest standards of excellence and professionalism in the communities where police operate, and swiftly hold them accountable if they don't do their job right. But I'm here to work with the mayor to do that. And yes.
Very good. And we want to move now into some district issues.
Starting next year, District 1 will include several new neighborhoods, including Soto and Pioneer Square. How do you plan to get to know and respond to the unique needs of these communities? Candidate Costa, we could start with you.
I've already been going out to meet so many different groups, neighborhood groups, nonprofits, organizations doing amazing work, small businesses, and then just knocking on doors. I think I've knocked on every door in South Park. It's easy to do because there's not that many doors, and I love the neighborhood. I would want to make sure that I have a very open door policy so that people can come and talk to me. But I also want to make sure that I am making myself available so that it's not just one-way street, come to the castle. Not everybody is available to come down to City Hall between the hours of 9 and 5. We need to make sure that people who are on a swing shift or a night shift and who maybe don't have a car can easily access FaceTime with their representative. So I would love to do rolling office hours in different neighborhoods and make sure that I'm available to the people who would want to talk to me.
Rob.
Yeah, so this new district is tremendous, and I love it. And it's a vibrant, diverse district, and it includes West Seattle, South Park, Pioneer Square, Soto, and Georgetown. Those 5 neighborhoods, we are one collective whole. And I'm here to make no mistake, folks, I'm here to represent the whole district. Not just one group or neighborhood or interest. And I've been going up and I've been showing out, and I've had the privilege and the pleasure of showing up to various, by door knocking at people's homes, door knocking and going to various community events in South Park and visiting nonprofits. This morning I visited the Lifelong Food Bank in Georgetown. They do tremendous work and they help support organizations across this district, including the West Seattle Food Bank. So I have a history of building durable, thriving relationships across diverse communities. Will continue that if elected. And another thing I would love to do is set up a field office somewhere in this district. Maybe it's in Georgetown. Maybe it's in the Junction. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But rather than have people show up at City Hall, they can show up to the field office.
All right, I want to move to this. Some of the people in the audience tonight submitted questions in advance, and we have a selection to put to our candidates. One thing somebody wants to know is what the first thing you're going to do and work on if you end up taking office. What's priority 1, Maren?
Wow, there's so many priorities. I think, listening to the district, we want to see progress on public safety. That is the #1 thing, public safety and homelessness. And when you take a bite out of homelessness, you also take a bite out of public safety. So maybe it's bringing people inside, making sure that we have mental and behavioral health resources, substance use disorder, diversion treatments. That would be a great first step. That's kind of huge. And so I want to sort of give you a bite-sized thing that I would also love to do that I think is actually accomplishable in a short amount of time, would be to set up climate resiliency centers in every neighborhood so that everyone has a safe place to go in an extreme weather event. So schools, libraries, community centers should all be set up with backup power, air filtration, and heat pump air conditioning.
Good, Rob.
Number one thing I will focus on if elected, it's those three things: affordability, homelessness, and public safety. Public safety. I think we have a long way to go to rebuild some public trust and confidence in the police. And that recent SPD officer's crass comments and sensitive comments was that poor woman who was killed by a police vehicle. That demonstrates that we have a long way to go to reform our police. But yes, we need police. And I'm here to provide a more thoughtful, balanced approach to public safety that recognizes, here we go, ride along with me in this journey, please. Recognizes the importance of policing and enforcement, reform and officer accountability, and civilian-led responses or alternatives to police, if you will. We can't just knock down one of those pillars, whether it's policing and enforcement and expect the whole thing to hang together. Public drug use is something to build upon. I support the law, unlike my opponent. I support the recent law to adopt existing state law on public drug use. We need to do better for people suffering from these debilitating drug dependency issues.
Another question came from our audience, and it was similar to something I saw on the West Seattle blog, which I thought was pretty representative about being confident that you're going to represent everybody. And this person writes, I'm tired of out-of-touch elites representing West Seattle. Please tell me what in your background would help me to believe that you can empathize with those of us considered low income and underserved. What in your background?
Maren, go first.
So in my background, I was a user experience designer, and the whole job of a user experience designer is to listen, empathize, understand, walk in the shoes of, and then invent solutions to solve problems and involve people in those solutions to make sure that those solutions actually work for the people that are going to be using them. So my 25-year career has prepared me for that exact job. That is something that I find is ingrained in me now. I can't do anything. I can't do things any other way.
Rob?
Yeah, about me, it's not just one thing. I have a big tech background, and I'm proud of it. We share a big tech background. But I think the separator for me is, look, before law school, I also served this country in uniform for 10 years. I've served our country in uniform. I've served our community in various government boards and commissions. I've served our other communities on various nonprofit boards and commissions. I didn't start showing up a year or two before I decided to run. Also, I think the specific call of the question is, how are we going to empathize with people from low-income backgrounds? How? Folks, I come from one of those backgrounds. I'm cut from that same cloth. Recall, I'm someone who, through the help of great government programs and community, I'm someone who overcame the foster care system, public housing, free reduced lunch, all those things. I know what it's like to be down on your luck. And I'm coming at it from personal experience, community experience, civic experience, and lived experience.
Another question from someone in this district. What do you think are the three biggest issues facing Seattle today? Maren, you can go first.
Public safety, homelessness, and affordable housing.
Do you want to expand on it? Maybe one of them, why you think it's the biggest issue?
You know, public safety for District 1, I think, is, out on the doors. That's what I hear most often. People in District 1, there's homelessness, but there's more homelessness there's definitely homelessness in Pioneer Square and Soto and Georgetown, South Park. But public safety seems to, even still in all of those neighborhoods as well, come up top for them as the number one thing. So I think we really need to address that.
Rob, three things, the biggest issues facing Seattle today.
Top three issues: public safety, homelessness, and affordability, more specifically housing affordability. And I'll expand, we talked a little bit about all these, but I'll expand on something that we didn't quite cover, and that is the public drug use debate. I support the city adopting existing state law to create an option. It doesn't require, creates an option to prosecute people for open public drug use. I've been telling people as a dad of 3 young kids, when I want to go to the Elastica Junction to visit some small businesses, I shouldn't be having to do gymnastics over people and paraphernalia. We're not doing good for people suffering from these drug dependency issues when we live and let live. That's why I supported it and my opponent does not. Then I went and testified in favor of it.
This is a very simple question. I'm really interested in how you're going to answer this one. You just talked about public safety as the number one concern. Is there any place in your district you would not walk at night?
You would not walk what, alone?
Is there any place in District 1 you would not walk at night?
Lauren, go first. Any place you would
Any
walk
place,
alone?
so regarding public safety, is there any place in District 1 you would not walk at night?
Walk
Maybe
at
even in the
night.
daytime?
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I would walk at night in the green belt on the, above the Duwamish.
Like above Alki there, that green belt?
Sorry, what?
Above Alki Beach, the canyon there?
No, the green belt that's above the Duwamish. So as you
Okay.
go along Marginal Way.
Okay.
There's trails through there, and I don't think I would go through there at night.
Yeah, that's one place. Rob?
I went to 13 different K through 12 schools growing up. 13. All of them exclusively Title I schools for kids like myself at the time, free reduced lunch. So I've lived in a lot of places growing up, and I've been in, and let me acknowledge my privilege also as a male, showing up at night. My personal sense of safety and security looks different than people who don't look
So
like
I'm
me.
going to ask you again, is there any place you would not walk at night?
No, there's no place. And not from a public safety standpoint, in the
No, I'm talking
traditional
about a public
sense,
safety.
it would be lack of. There's a lot of district. I've walked all over this district. There's a lot of inequity in our sidewalks. So not necessarily because I'm scared of some sort of crime threat, but because of the lack of sidewalk infrastructure that exists. And at night, I can only imagine. The little things, folks. I'm here to focus on the little things. Little things.
I want to get to another question from a District 1 viewer who worries that more housing isn't making housing more affordable. They're seeing luxury apartment buildings go up, pricing longtime residents out. So the question is, how would you make sure that there's a good mix that meets the needs of all District 1 residents? And Maren, you can go first.
So we absolutely do need all types of housing. We need to make sure we have affordable housing. We need to make sure we have housing that is a percentage of your income. So 30% of your income, if you make zero, you pay zero. What we do know, and there was a recent Forbes article out about this, like we do know, I mentioned the used cars earlier. We do know that no matter what kind of housing we build, even if it's luxury housing, we will bring the cost of housing down. And that's why I would want to make sure we get out of our way. And we have a chance to build housing, let's build housing. And then we always make sure, we can always make sure that we are making, the affordable housing available as well, and make sure that we have the funding to do it. And if we don't raise revenue, we're going to have trouble funding these programs that we all want to see and that we'll all feel better once we actually have them in place.
Right, same question for you, Rob.
Housing that meets the needs. Well, we need to build, grow, add density, reform the zoning laws. Again, things we've kind of talked about, and expand the variety of housing options for people. And again, focusing those efforts from a city funding and investment standpoint on the lower 2 tiers. Market rate housing will come. So we need a variety of options. And also, as I mentioned earlier, kind of alluded to earlier, I support both the carrot and the stick approach for developers, working with developers. Mandatory, a mixture of mandatory, requirements for new affordable housing options, and then incentivizing them to actually do the right thing. But we also need to change the cost structure and economics of it. Sometimes I was door knocking recently, and someone told me right next door their house tore down, and the developers built, and it was supposed to be affordable, and then they paid the premium, and instead it's a market rate housing, and into the pot this other money went. We need to change the dynamics and market structure so that less of that happens.
Good, thank you. Now we're going to move to another question.
Okay, we're going to move into closing statements because our time is running out. So each candidate will get 60 seconds to make their remarks. And since, Maren, we started with you in the opening statements, we're going to start with Rob.
Thank you. So change is needed now more than ever. And Seattle is at a critical crossroads. We can elect more of the same, or we can elect a new, better approach to all these issues. Everyone deserves to feel safe in their own neighborhoods and communities. And we're not there yet. There was a comic book store in West Seattle yesterday, vandalized twice. There was a vape shop that was vandalized 7 times or something like in the last few weeks. It's out of hand. Our city doesn't need another inconsistent, unreliable council member. Our city deserves better. We don't need another activist with a megaphone. You deserve better. Again, I'm the only one in this race who has actually written government policy and helped to pass law. I fought to keep our streets safe, and I fought to reform our justice system.
Rob, Mara.
District 1 deserves an experienced leader who has the proven ability to listen, build trust, champion evidence, not ideology, and deliver results. Someone who has not just goals, but plans and can talk about how they're going to fund them. That's what I've been doing for 25 years. That's what I hope you've heard from me here tonight, and that's what you can expect from me on City Council. But ultimately, this campaign is about community, and it's our community, and the amazing unstoppable power we have when we come together as a community to get things done. I'm proud to have the endorsements of all 6 of my former opponents, including Phil Tavel, Preston Anderson, and Stephen Brown. I'm also endorsed by King County Democrats, the Stranger, MLK Labor Council, Seattle Dispatchers Guild, the Bus Drivers Union, and dozens of labor unions, organizations, and community leaders. I'm honored to have earned first place in the primary. I hope to earn your vote in November, and I hope to serve you in City Hall. Thank you.
And with those closing statements, we end our first City Council district debate. Thank you so much to both candidates for discussing these important issues. It's finally time for our live audience so they can show some appreciation for the candidates.
We hope you learned something, and we hope you vote. Make sure you get your ballot postmarked by Tuesday, November 8th. If you're not registered yet or need to update your information, head to votewa.gov.
Now, the Seattle City Club is organizing 3 more debates. There are 4 races that do not have, these are races that do not have an incumbent in them. These 4 debates, we're not doing any debates with incumbents. In districts 3, 4, and 5. You can find more information at seattlecity.org.
And now we say goodbye from South Seattle College. Thank you, happy voting, and good night.
He wanted to hear the radio. We had to stick a couple of coat hangers on Grandpa's head so his cavity fillings could pick up an AM station. But it's the 21st century now, so whenever I want to hear Rainier Avenue Radio.world, I listen to it on the brand new Rainier Avenue Radio app on my Android or iPhone. Download it for free at the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store. The Rainier Avenue Radio.world app.
We must all remain committed to slow the spread of coronavirus, taking care of ourselves and not putting others in harm's way, especially those already at high risk of getting seriously ill, including people over 65 or those with underlying medical conditions.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world and the post-debate conversation. We're going to see if we can get the candidates up here and maybe some of the moderators up here again, some folks from the audience. Yeah. One quick second here. Can you and Kimberly try and get? Oh, they all coming. All right. So it's going to happen. We're going to get the candidates here. We're going to get some of the moderators here. We'll try and get some folks from the audience here. Hey, Mac. Hey, Daniel. I think Mac has somebody over there.
Think about the debate.
I thought it was all right. I think that,
it seems I really wanted to hear a bit more about like concrete policy, and I think at times the candidates were dancing around questions or really trying to emphasize things that were big splashy talking points. But I really wanted to hear exactly like what some of their hard ideas were for governance of the city.
Did this help you make a decision?
I think it was really good to be here and kind of hear them both put on the spot and like, see how they operate under pressure and answer some tough questions. I don't think my decision has changed since I came in. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Evan. All right.
All right. Thanks, Mac. That comment there is from a member of the studio audience. Didn't seem to have been swayed either way by what they heard so far. We're going to talk to some more folks. Obviously, we're going to have the candidates come back here as well, the moderators, and get some opinions from the community about how they think this debate went. Again, this was D1, Maren Costa, Rob Saka. Had an opportunity to have them both on in the pre-debate show. We'll see if we can't get something going for the post-debate show as well. I am Tony B. You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is our coverage of the 5 debates that are going to be happening. D1, D2, D3, D4, D5. We're going to be covering all of these debates. We are actually going to be hosting the D2 debate. That will be tomorrow. And that will be live here on Rainier Avenue Radio .world. We'll be doing pre-debate and post-debate events again for the D3, which is coming up on October 10th. That will be at the Broadway Performance Center or Hall. The D4 debate, the District 4 City Council debate, and that D3 debate again is Joy Hollingsworth and Alex Hudson. The D4 debate is Ron Davis and Marzita Rivera. That will be taking place on October 13th at the University of Washington Hub Ballroom. And then we'll be doing our final debate October 17th, and that will be at North Seattle College. Again, we'll be doing pre-debate work and post-debate work, with that one giving you an opportunity to hear from the candidates and also some of the moderators as well. And I think Malia Ha is going to be joining me. Come on up. And all right. Have a seat. Malia, great job. Oh, Daniel?
Hello? Oh, yeah, I'm breathing
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, how did it feel?
It was good. It's hard. I think you're trying to get your questions across, but also respond in real time. And it was good. It was just, there was so much going on, but trying to keep up with everything was intimidating. Yeah.
Oh, intimidating.
It is, because you're just up there like trying to pay attention to everything they're saying and responding. But it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hope you know I'm going to ask you, because I'm going to ask you.
Oh my gosh.
Daniel, you're in the way of the camera. Who do you think was effective at getting their message across? Maybe that was both candidates, maybe one more so than the other. Yeah, that's the question.
It's a good question. I think they were both effective in getting their points across and what they were trying to get across. I think what's hard is they're both, in a lot of ways, they've prioritized similar issues and have similar views, like on affordable housing, like how to achieve their campaign points. And so I think they were both effective in getting their points across. I think the real challenge is understanding where their differences lie.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's something that I was trying to pay attention to while I was up there.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were getting answers to your questions?
I think so. And I think if there were points where there weren't answers, especially my co-panelists were really good at just hopping in and asking for clarification. There were a couple of times where they had to kind of jump in, redirect, and ask again, like the original question. So I would say generally we were getting answers. And then if there were points where maybe it was veering I think they were really good at reeling them back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we have had the opportunity to watch a couple of national debates.
Mm-hmm.
This was different. I'm saying thankfully, but this is
Right.
just in the fact that you had candidates who were talking over each other. Was there enough interaction for you
Between them?
between these two candidates, or would you have liked to see more interaction?
You know, I was actually surprised to see interaction between them. I feel like in my mind, when I think of these debates, I assumed it would be a lot of pointed questions, maybe talking in reference to each other. But I was actually surprised. I felt like there was a little bit more back and forth, or like some nonverbal responses, like facial expressions, things that were happening up there. They were just interesting to watch. I wasn't I think expecting. I think I was expecting a lot more like focus on the panel. And I think they did have some little back and forth.
Rob seemed to hammer away at Maren over this defund
Yeah.
the police issue.
Yeah.
Do you think that was effective?
Well, I don't. That's a good question. I think I think it was effective in if you follow Rob, if he is your candidate of choice, I think it just further solidifies your belief in him. I think if Maren is your candidate of choice, it maybe further drew your support towards her because I don't know. It was interesting. She even kind of preempted it by addressing it at the top of her interview or her statement by saying he's going to say this, and then he did. And so I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know about effectiveness. I think it might just be effective for each of them to kind of hammer on the point of, I do believe in defund the police. I don't believe in defund the police. This is what my opponent's going to say. I think it might have been more effective for their respective parties who already knew this debate had happened a couple of days ago between them.
And finally, what did you take away? What do you leave here that you'd like to share with our audience? And this is, you sat there, you were right in front, questions were directed to you. And there's probably some folks who aren't even going to see the debate.
Yeah, that's true.
And what did you take away from this debate here with our candidates, Maren Costa and Rob Saka?
I mean, I just think it's amazing. Like you said, not a lot of people are going to maybe even see this debate, but then there's people in the community who actually showed out to watch it. And I just think that's a testament to the power of local politics and how much people care about their communities. Like it was just, it was amazing to see how many people were here tonight to just support their candidates, or I don't know, maybe revel in the drama. I'm not really sure.
Maliha, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for doing what you did. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye here?
This was fun. It was fun doing a little pre and post interview. And y'all are doing great work. It's fun to see you here. And this is, it was just cool. It was nice to meet you.
And your podcast.
Yes. Crosscut Reports.
Yeah.
Comes out every Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm the new co-host. So,
right. All right. Now, how can we see it?
Anywhere that you get
shameless self-promotion.
You
know what I'm saying?
Plug my podcast. So me and my coworker Sarah Bernard put it out every week, and you can find it on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right.
Good to meet you.
Thank you. And I believe we've got Natalie coming up here. Watch your step. Watch that step. Okay. All right. Natalie.
Hi.
Oh boy. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Well done, man. You were kind of intense.
Well, intense topics. Trying to get as much in there as we could. And we probably felt like we could have kept going because we had so many great questions from a lot of the people in the district.
Okay. And you seem to have a lot of follow-up questions as well. Was that because you didn't feel like you were getting answers, or was that because these issues are so nuanced, or whatever the reason was? You just seem to have a lot of intentional follow-up to the questions you were asking.
And some of them were spontaneous, just in the moment as I'm listening to their answer. I'm like, oh, but what about this? And I think it is because the nuance. These are layered issues, as we know. There's, a lot of them intersect. And it just, you want to make sure that you're hearing from these candidates. Because if you're in that spot and you're making the decisions, What are you going to do? That's what voters want to know.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna ask you this. You know, I get down when I'm. Was there a clear winner in this debate for you?
Oh, you know, I haven't even processed it enough. Honestly, I'm still in it. I don't know. I hope that the winner is the people sitting in the audience
Okay.
deciding that they were able to walk away
Good answer.
learning something that they didn't know before that
Yeah.
will help inform their vote.
Hmm. Do you think? How would you describe the what we were hearing from the candidates? Again, I mentioned that you had follow-up questions. Was there a candidate that you feel connected more with the audience today? And again, I'm putting you on the spot here, but you were the moderator.
Right. And, you know, and be the moderator, kind of, you're doing a lot of things at once. So I couldn't fully gauge the full room as they were sitting behind us, but I could hear that vocal responses for both candidates. And I think, you know, it was good to be able to ask Maren about, she listed her 3 issues. Okay, tell me more about, like, how would you actually do this one? And she did have some answers for that. And same for Rob Saka, same thing. He was able to kind of give you some specifics. I felt like when they were getting specific, the audience was responding well. That's what I could hear as they were going through this debate tonight.
Maren, one of the things that she said was she had a 25-year career in working with people and pulling things together. One of the things that Rob mentioned was, well, hey, I didn't just show up. I've been doing this for a long time. How did you take that? Because for me, it was kind of, well, wait a minute. If folks decide tomorrow that they want to take up issues, take up the issue tomorrow. You know, on the other hand, you could say, hey, there's this thing called experience, and having had the opportunity to be involved and engage in these types. How did that feel for you? Did that make any difference? Did that resonate with you all? I've shared with you how it kind of felt for me.
Well, just being the moderator, I just wanted to be able to give them the time to talk so that people could take it in. I mean, I think that's our job up there. And I also think when it comes to experience, one thing I will say is I think for all these races, go check out everybody's websites, because I have, and it's great to see they list it out for you and it's there. And I think it's up to voters to go and do that homework.
What was this experience like for you?
Oh, wow. You know what? It felt like you had every burner going, and you're just like, and I'm like working with great people beside me with my panel. And just like, okay, you have a follow-up? Okay, you got to, okay, what are we going to do? And so many great ideas on the panel who really are just trying to get the questions that we're getting from the people we're talking to in the community. It was just, let's get as many of those to these 2 candidates as possible. So it was a great experience, but that hour for us went by fast because there was a lot of work to do.
Yeah, there was a lot to share in that very short period of time. How do you make the decision? Okay, these are the ways that I'm going to choose to interact with the candidates, and is that on behalf of what you think the community wants to hear, or at that point are you just saying, I need to hear more about this? Was that resonating with you at all?
Yeah, I think a lot. First and foremost, it's what does the community want to know? And we have the benefit, the jobs we do, to sit and connect with the community all the time, every day. So we're hearing their questions. The second thing is the issues, because we're at the city council meetings and we're at the press conferences. And so you get to start to know those issues pretty well. And so it's a mix of those 2 things. It's just knowing what's happening in our city and being able to listen to all the people that have so many different opinions. I want to hear as many of those different opinions as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. Wonderful job. Any final words you want to share with our audience? You know, a lot of people don't even know who's running for office. I'm just keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? We're talking to people. So this may be the only opportunity that they have. Is there anything that you would like to share with our listening audience right now that you garnered as a moderator from this debate, whatever that may happen to be, that you'd like to share with our listening audience right now to help them become more informed before they cast a ballot?
No, I think watching these debates is a great idea. I mean, obviously we're kicking it off here in District 1, but you're going to get one for all the districts. Watch these debates, consume as much as possible, check out the candidates' websites. We are airing these on Kong. I know that there's streaming. watch it, consume it, and get ready. Do your homework because
All right.
it's almost here.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining us.
absolutely.
An excellent job.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. I believe we got Matt coming up here, and we're going to get a chance to talk to Matt. Again, you're listening
So,
to
Tony-
Rainier Avenue Radio.
So Tony, I've got Bob over here. Bob, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for taking a minute to speak with us. You were here for the debate. Tell us what you thought.
Well, I thought it was terrific. It's the first one I've ever been to for local politics, and I would, Rob Saka's a neighbor. He lives about a block away on the same street in Delridge, and so to me, he lives our life daily, and it's a troubled spot in the city, and but it's also kind of a paradise right near Longfellow Creek. And I don't quite know where Maren Costa lives. I don't know what neighborhood she lives in. And I would like to know that. I wanted to ask that question, but the opportunity didn't present itself.
So what's your biggest concern right now as a resident?
I think crime. I think our community is a lot of working folks, middle class, certainly on our block. And but we're surrounded by disorganized crime, all different kinds. The largest drug bust in Seattle history was the next block over, like about a year ago. So that's a big concern. That was not very fun to watch. And you don't know. I could think of, they asked where they'd feel unsafe walking in Seattle. I could think of a lot of places. But, at night, it's just we hear gunshots at least once a week. And yeah.
Well, Rob, thank you for being here and being civically involved and taking the time to talk to us.
All right. Thanks, Mac. And I've got Matt here. I think that you accomplished what you set out to do.
Well, we tried.
Yeah.
Tried to interject.
How did you feel about the way things went up there? I know that's a broad question, but yeah, tell me how you feel.
I felt it went okay. It took a while to get warmed up to try and get them to address some of the issues. I think I wanted to jump in a little bit more to hold them from them stop repeating the same thing, maybe in some of the answers. But given the kind of the rules that we had, I couldn't quite do that. It wasn't more of a I'd make it more of a debatable conversation. But that wasn't what we were intending to do. We tried to ask the questions, maybe interject, call them out on a few things they may have said in their answers. And to some extent, we did that.
Well, you definitely did that. And you said you were going to do that.
Yeah.
Is that because you felt like you weren't getting the full explanation that you were looking for? Is it that you weren't getting an explanation looking for? Is it that you felt like, some of these things that were talked about at the 30,000 foot level needed to be addressed about what happens when they hit the ground?
Well, it's when you have an hour debate and they're limited to 60-second answers and 30-second response answers, because there was a little light, they could see. As a candidate, that's hard to for them. Well, let's put this as a questioner, it's hard to just let it go for 30 seconds. They can say nothing for 30 seconds. Sometimes they said stuff, but in terms of if I was a journalist, was there any quotes that I wrote down? There were a few. I mean, but it's more about the really simple, direct questions, like where would you not walk at night? I told you I'd ask that question, and I did. And Mara gave an answer, and Rob did not. He did not give that answer. He scooted around it, talked about sidewalks. I even followed up and said, do you have a space? You have a place?
Yeah.
And he still didn't answer. So I think those kind of questions people remember. Why didn't he answer that? Whereas the other person did answer it. And maybe that may make a difference on how they look at their candidate. Will the person answer the question or skirt around it?
All right, a couple more questions for you. I'm going to ask you this just like I asked the other two. Was there a clear winner in the debate tonight for you?
No. I think Rob stuck to his talking points. and that's why I brought up repeatedly. He tried to bring up the funding to police with Mara and use that as a wedge early on. She didn't really go on the attack on him, but talked about her philosophies and beliefs. And I think he was trying to make it more. He tried to do more attacking in that.
He hammered her.
Yeah. So
with
if you think that attacking the other candidate and getting some jabs in is a win in a debate, then he won. I don't consider that a win.
Folks who are watching this, some of them may see this and may not have even seen the debate. There are folks out there who don't even know who's running for office.
Yeah. These are two newcomers here.
Yeah. For each candidate, what are your biggest takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience right now, as a moderator, as listening intently, as having the ability to also ask follow-up questions for each candidate? What are the takeaways that you leave here with today that you want to share with our voting audience?
I think there were some questions involving when they talked about affordable housing. They both agree that it's needed. They both agree to improve density. There was some agreement on that. My question, and you may have, if people didn't watch it, I continually harped on was who's going to pay for all this and how you're going to pay for all this.
You harped on that.
Yeah, that's right. Because the city council's job is to dole out the funds.
Yeah.
All that taxpayer money. The mayor can't spend money. It's the city council that spends the money on a budget that the mayor proposes, and they counter that. So their job is all about the money and prioritizing where that money goes. And in 2025, in the city of Seattle, is going to face lower than projected revenues. It's still going to have higher revenues, but lower than projected. And we all know inflation's going up, so things are going to cost more. So they need to cut or find another place to generate more revenue. That's kind of the city council's job. And I think a big takeaway on that, I didn't hear any initiatives, creative ways to raise money for new projects or affordable housing, especially.
From either candidate.
From either candidate. Yeah, no specifics. And even asked in my second question, actually, in my first question, I asked for specifics. But in the first question, they're nervous and they're just trying to answer the question. So I think, going forward, and I'll be doing this with all the candidates when I'm in a debate, is show me the money. I mean, show me where that money is coming from.
All right.
That's what we're going to be talking about.
All right. Any final words you want to share? First of all, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to support you guys.
Doing what you're doing.
I love what you guys do.
And being here. But anything you want to share, any final messages you want to share with the constituents listening audience right now. And I'm gonna say about D1.
I'm actually hoping that going forward that we have shall we say more voices what you guys do. That follow the politics of come from places like Rainier Beach, Rainier Valley, the inner city Seattle. I honestly believe we don't have enough of those questioners out there. Have a forum where they can ask these two candidates and other candidates those questions. So it's kind of a weird answer that I hope going forward more people like you are involved in a more prominent role in these things. Because we need those extra voices from learned experience to ask these candidates questions. Because when I ask the candidates, what in their background a person would empathize with them who is low income, maybe a person of color, also, unhoused, that needs to come from someone who is and can call them out on their so-called elitism, and that's what the question I got from someone, that's what I was trying to convey.
Awesome. We'll see you again.
District 4. Yeah.
District 4.
Yeah.
Well, hey, great job. You came on and said, this is what I'm going to do. Then you did it.
Well, try to be a man of my word.
All right. We'll see you again at D4. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Come on.
I think we're going to close this down. I think Mac has one more over there. from the audience.
Yes, I do.
And I
Thank you,
believe
Tony.
that's Chef Dee.
It is. Yes, this is Mac McGregor with Rainier Avenue Radio at the District 1 debate, and I'm here with Demetra. Hi. And you heard the whole debate. Tell us a little bit about what you thought about what the candidates had to say.
Well, I think that we really need to change the homeless crisis that's in this community, because I think that it needs to start within. And majority of the time, I cannot interview. I'm so sorry. And I think that we just need to change the dynamic of the community as far as just trying to get the community to get more involved as far as the homeless crisis is concerned, and more programs for the homeless, targeting, mental health and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. Tell me, do you feel safe in Seattle these days?
Sometimes it depends on where you're going. Sometimes it's a little bit, it's sporadic in the Seattle. You can pretty much walk anywhere and you see homeless people. So, it depends on where you go. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. All right. Mac McGregor at the D1 debate, District 1 debate. Thank you for tuning in to Rainier Avenue Radio.
All right. Thanks, Mac. Great job there. Converge Media and the Rainier Avenue Radio team. Great job. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 6 o'clock. The debate will be 7 to 8. The D2 candidates, Tammy Morales and Tanya Wu, will continue what we're doing, and we're going to carry this through all the way through, again, District 3, October 10th. And that will be Joy Hollingsworth and Alex Hudson. District 4, October 13th. That will be Ron Davis and Marzita Rivera. And then District 5, October 17th at North Seattle College, Kathy Moore and Christiana Obey Sumner. That's it. That's all the time that I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B., your host, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you're probably right. I'm out. Peace.